Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lainey. Thank you so much for stopping by. In today's video, we're going to be doing my palette collection. So if you would like to see all of the eyeshadow palettes I own, my primarily indie eyeshadow palettes, then just keep on watching. I will have a parts 2 and 3 to this series. Tomorrow will be single eyeshadows, and then the day after that will be the rest of my makeup collection. So primers, eyeliners, bronzers, mascara, you name it, it'll be in it. And so if you're interested in that, be sure to stick around and hit that subscribe button. I do a lot of indie makeup content and a lot of panning content, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's hop into my eyeshadow palette collection. Okay, so starting off with brands, I have multiple palettes from. We're going to talk about Musee Beauty. They are actually now called Love Beauty, but at the time I bought all of these palettes, they were called Musee. So first up, we've got the Van Gogh palette, which is one of my favorite 9-pan palettes ever. I think it's a very, very well done 9-pan, and you can get a lot of looks out of it. And then we've got the Triumph of Venus, which is a really pretty cool toned blue palette. We've got the first edition of Le Jardin, which is really pretty, but not my favorite formula from them. And then we've got the Honorée palette. As you can tell, I really love Musee Beauty, or now Colourpop Beauty. Really pretty rosy tone palette. And then we've got the Rococo palette, which is a really pretty kind of pastel palette. I have a 5 looks 1 palette on this palette on my channel, if you want to check that out. And then I got the Impressionism palette, which is probably my second favorite palette from them. I think you can get a lot of variety out of this palette, and it is a very smartly designed palette. There's just a lot you can do with this palette, so I really, really like it. So next up for Glam Shop, we have the Citronata palette. This is a really, really nice yellow palette. I love the different shimmers in here. The mattes are really nice as well. It just doesn't go super deep. And then we have the Burgundy palette, which I don't know why I still have the sleeve, but as the name suggests, is a burgundy tone palette, and I love the shimmer in the middle. It is so pretty. I really love the 9-pans from Glam Shop. And then we have the W Zalone palette, which the shimmers, I mean, look at this one in the middle. It is so pretty. And I have pan in the matte. Over here, I love the Pop of Neon. It's just a really well done green palette. And then finally, we've got the Neon Pastel Matte palette, which again, it's got the sleeve, but this is what it looks like. It's just a really nice companion palette. And next up, we have the Nabla palettes I have. So first up is the Cutie palette. I bought this because of Stuffed Lions. This is such a pretty 6-pan. I really, really enjoy it. The shimmer is absolutely stunning. The mattes are really nice. I just think this is a great, versatile palette. And then I also have the Dreamy 2 palette, which I really wanted for a long time. I just love how dark and grungy it is, but also kind of glamorous. I don't love some of the mattes, but the shimmers are absolutely beautiful. We've got my Lunar Beauty palettes, so of course I keep the sleeves on these, but first up we have a Moonspell Volume 1. So this is what Volume 1 looks like. As you can tell, it is very well loved. I've got pan here, 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 and here, so 4 pans. I expect to have more pans next year in 2022, but I love this palette. It is definitely iconic, and I wish it was permanent just because I know so many people missed out on it, but it is absolutely beautiful. And then, of course, we've got Volume 2, which I know not a lot of people love. I love the color story, and I still love the formula. I think it could have been edited down. I don't think all of these shadows were necessary, but I find the formula comparable to Volume 1. I don't find it to be patchy or anything. This Luna shade is absolutely beautiful. But overall, I do really like this palette. Just could have been edited down. We've got my Menagerie palettes. Now, I believe only one of these are still available. I think she discontinued her older palettes, but first up, we've got Killer Purr, which is just a really, really nice neutral palette. I did switch out one of the shimmers for one of her singles. I believe this is Animal Kingdom. So it's kind of fitting, but I really, really love the mattes in this palette, and it's a really nice neutral with a twist palette. Then we've got the newest palette, which I know is still, you know, she's still making it, and it's the Indigo Ink palette. This is such a beautiful palette. It's really inspiring to me, and it's definitely a challenge to use, but that's what I love about it. This shade is so pretty. I love these two kind of more neon-y brights. This Shell Yeah shade is absolutely beautiful. It's just a really great palette. I definitely recommend it. And then we've got Whale Song, which is a beautiful bluey green palette. I love this palette. The mattes are stunning. They do stain, but it's just, oh, I love this palette. It's so sad that she discontinued her older palettes, but I understand why. And then lastly, we've got the Feral palette. This is such a nice, versatile palette. It's one of the palettes that I think is just a must in my collection. It's so, you can get so many looks out of it. I've got Pan and Alpha. I love the greens. This purple is really nice. I love this shimmer Wolfling. It's just an all-around great palette. Okay, so next up we're gonna go into indie brands where I just have like one palette from the brand. So first up, we've got the Natasha Denona Love palette. I bought this when it was half off earlier this month at Sephora, and I find this formula to be very mediocre. It does not make me want to try any more Natasha Denona palettes. I think it's just fine, but I don't think it justifies the price tag. I don't really know why I bought this palette, to be honest, because it's not a color story I'm going to reach for very often. If I do, I'm going to reach for my Lunar Beauty one more. But I'm glad I finally got to try it out and just kind of decide if the formula was for me or not. Next up, we've got this super tiny palette. This is the Tammy Tanuka Sigil-inspired Lavender Chinchilla palette. You can get a full size or a mini. I opted for the mini just because I'm never going to go through these shadows anyway. But it's a really, really cute 6-pan. I love the shimmer down here. And the mattes are super nice and blendable. It's a great palette. And it's so cute. Next up, we've got the Melt Cosmetics Smoke Sessions palette. I think that I'm really glad I was able to try the Melt formula. I don't necessarily love all the shimmers in here. I still enjoy the palette and using it from time to time, but it's definitely not my favorite. And then I've got the Estate Cosmetics and Bailey Sarian Venice Fling palette. And this is just such a cute little 9-pan. I've got Pan up here. This is a very, very good quality palette. It reminds me a lot of Juvia's Place. And I like the versatility of this palette. I've got the Tribe palette. I believe this is discontinued now. I like this palette. I think the formula is good, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. But I'm really glad that I have it, and I really love this color story. Then I've got my Lethal Cosmetics Lethal's Dead. I do have single shadows from them, but that'll be in a separate video. But I did pick up the Teresa's Dead collaboration. I love this palette. I think it's a really cool color story. The shimmers are really nice. I like the shimmer to matte ratio. It's just all around a really, really nice palette. I'm glad I have it. Then we've got the Kaleidos Club Nebula palette. I don't love this. I was so excited to try Kaleidos for the first time, and I felt like this was the first palette that really spoke to me. But it's just patchy. It's not, they're not, no matter what I do, these shadows are patchy. Whatever primer I use, whether I set it, whether I don't set it, whether I start with the lightest shades or the darkest shades, they just don't work for me. I would love them to work for me, but they just don't. And that's okay. Everyone's gonna have their own preferences for formula, and the Kaleidos formula is just not for me. So I'm glad I was able to try them out, and it's a beautiful palette. I think it's so cute. But I just end up getting frustrated whenever I use this. And finally, we've got my newest palette. This was an early Christmas present from my boyfriend. This is the Blend Bunny Surge palette, which I realize is still in the outer packaging. So 1 second. I have not used this yet, but I am hoping to soon. So this is what the outer packaging looks like, same as the unit carton. And then this is the palette. I just think this is so cute. The neons, the pastels, the grungy tones, and the shimmers. I just felt like this was a really unique, a really unique palette to my collection. I think it's so pretty, and I'm so excited to dig into this palette more. Okay, so next up we've got Beauty Bay, and I'm not quite sure if Beauty Bay is indie. This is kind of my like transition point into my non-indie eyeshadows. But I do have two Beauty Bay palettes. First up, we've got the iconic Wilderness palette. I got this when it restocked. I'm so happy I did. It's so pretty. I love it so much. It's, the Beauty Bay shimmers are my favorite. And then I've also got the Book of Magic palette, which was, I think, holiday last year. As you can see, it's a very well-loved palette. So many pans. I aim to hit pan in the rest of the shades in 2022. I love it so much. And then now so basically for my non-indie shadows, aside from Beauty Bay, which I believe is a little bit of a question mark, I have two brands. One from Urban Decay, and then the rest are from Colourpop. So let's get Urban Decay out of the way. I've got Naked Honey. I got this for 50% off, and it is a quality golden palette. If you are looking for these tones, I mean, I would wait till it's on sale, but it's so pretty. This is a really good quality Naked palette. Okay, so now the rest of my palettes are all Colourpop. I'm going to start with my larger ones and then move into my 9 pans. So next up, we've got my Disney Mulan palette. This is really pretty. It's not my favorite palette, but I do like it, and some of the shimmers are really, really pretty. But I've gotten some good use on some of the shadows, so they're really nice. And then I do have the Hocus Pocus Gather Round Sisters. This is the older one. I think this is just a really pretty jewel tone palette. It's so cute, and I love Hocus Pocus, so I am happy to have this in my collection. I love these olive greens. They're so cute. Next up, we've got my 12 pans. So I've got At Forest Sight. As you can tell, this is a very well-loved palette. It's probably my favorite Colourpop palette in my collection. It's so cute, and I just love the mattes and pairing them with my indie singles. Next up, we've got Dream Street, which is very well-loved. It's definitely on the older side, but I still enjoy it. And then I've also got Yes Please, which looks so dirty, but this is another well-loved palette. Both Dream Street and Yes Please have been rearranged, by the way. Now getting into the last one, this is the Limoncello palette, which is so hard to open. These are the larger pans, but they're like more shallow. I just think this is such a cute palette. This is a Limoncello palette, if I didn't mention, but I just think it's so cute, and I'm so glad I picked it up on a good deal. Alright, you guys, so let's get into these 9 pan palettes. So first up, we've got Strawberry Shake, which my boyfriend got me when he was placing an order and surprised me with it. It was not on my wish list, but it's a really cute pinky palette. Yeah, I do enjoy it, and it makes me think of my boyfriend. Then we've got the Honey palette. As you can see, I forgot I had some shadows in an upcoming BYOP. This one is also switched out for a palette I no longer own, but I do enjoy this yellow palette. Then we've got the Main Squeeze palette, which is a red, it's like a pinky red palette. I think it's really cool. This Juicy Fruit shade makes the palette for me. It's like a gold to a pinky red duochrome. I really, really like it. So that's the Main Squeeze palette. Next up, we've got the Ooh La La palette, which is like a pinky purple palette. It's not my favorite, but I do keep it around. And then we've got the Orange You Glad palette, which I think is just a cute orange Colourpop palette. Nothing too special, but it's cute. Then we've got the Blown Smoke palette, which, again, I have a shade depotted, but it's such a cute. I wanted this palette for a really long time, and it was out of stock for so long, so I'm really glad that I have it in my collection now for when I want these smoky tones. And then we've got the Just My Luck palette. Just a really nice green color story. I really, really enjoy it. Probably my favorite 9 pan is the It's My Pleasure. As you can tell, this is a very well-loved palette. Lots of dips going on in this palette. I love Earthshine and Mr. Sandman in the bottom corner. It's just a really nice purple palette. I really love it. And then we've got the High Tide palette, which is a teal color story, and it is so pretty. I love this palette a lot. And then we've got the Baby Yoda palette, which, again, why is it in the packaging? I don't know. But it is such a cute greeny neutral color story. I love this palette. I don't care about Star Wars, but I care about Baby Yoda because it's so cute. And then lastly, we've got Blue Moon. Again, a very well-loved palette for me. I love the blues in here. They're so easy to use, and I like it a lot. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these palettes. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you like down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!